The principle of continued business justification is simply know when to stop. Now, all projects start with the intention of stopping at the end, when the end is delivery of the final product or products. There's no question, nobody starts a project in order to end it prematurely. But Prince2 accepts that sometimes it is right to end a project prematurely. Sometimes there are factors outside of the project which mean that at a certain point it no longer makes business sense to continue with that project. Too many of us are taught that we shouldn't fail and to stop a project is failure, and therefore you'll find people who just keep on going against the odds, even though the financials are telling them that it no longer makes sense, it's no longer viable as a project or as a product when it comes out. People just don't want to admit to failure, and it goes a lot to the culture of the organization. If your organization is talking Prince2 and living Prince2, then they're going to be open to challenging the continued business justification as you go along. But if you think along these lines of continued business justification, but you are in a culture of punishment, then you're going to try and keep on finding many different ways to finish delivery the product, even though it just shouldn't really continue. If you think about the business case that you draw up can be for many different types of project. So there is no golden rule that you can be told, well, the business justification for a Prince2 project is the following. That's not the point. The point is that, for example, we raised a business case for a change project, and that was to bring about organizational change in the way that a particular organization handled incoming customer requests. And that meant not only changing a system, but changing the way people worked and thought. And so that business case anticipates that you will finish by a certain time, that the implementation won't have cost more than was projected, and that the maintenance and the administration of that function, once it's gone live, is going to be within the tolerances. The same is true if you have a product project. Now, I know all Prince2 projects, we say focus on the product, but in some cases it actually is a product. It's saying we're going to create the new competitor to the iPhone, and there's going to be a research and design project. There's going to be a prototyping project. There's going to be a manufacturing project to get the manufacturing plant bought, built, and run to produce that first set of samples of the product before you then hand it over to operations. You might have a quality improvement project, just looking at a process improvement within your business, for example, or improving the design of a certain part of a car that you manufacture. And so it's still has to be a point at which you're saying, no, actually this particular improvement that we've been working on is going to be replaced and outdated because there's a new technology that will completely streamline that. So we were implementing a system and we were thinking, well, we need to reduce the number of people checking other people's work. So we went from having 3 people checking one person's work to 1 person checking one person's work. But then the system that we actually implemented a month later had an audit trail, and you didn't need to have anybody checking that person's work because you could move to a random sampling audit as to whether the work is being done correctly. So again, if we'd seen that, maybe we would have stopped that step of the project and just waited and adapted the processes and the standard operating procedures that way. Same is true for an implementation project. I've mentioned a change project earlier, or an improvement project. If you are implementing a system, whether it's a software system or a new device for measuring heart rates, or a new type of X-ray device, a new type of device that monitors road vibration or monitors the temperature of food in a refrigerated container on a ship. You might be developing it, designing it, developing it, and deploying it is all implementation. But again, you might get to a certain point in an implementation project where the need goes away, because for having a device that monitors temperature in a refrigerated container is one thing, until next thing you know, all the containers are coming out with an integrated temperature system, which they are. But when you see something coming out in the marketplace, you might decide that there's no point carrying on trying to manufacture your little gadget, because your gadget is going to be obsolete within months. So you might decide then to prematurely close your project. And then a research project is the same. You might have a research project into a particular solution to how a vehicle could run on Mars. And it's a problem that has been there forever, and various companies have got research projects, and another company comes out with the solution, and you really can't see that your research project is going to come up with anything slightly better. So you could just say, right, we're going to stop this research project, and we may restart it or bring a new one to life with a slightly different question, a different problem to solve. And the reason we do this is, all of this is because resources are scarce. Organizations just don't have unlimited money, unlimited talent, access to raw materials or access to equipment, and you are having to trade off these things, and that's what your business case is for. If you've drawn up a business case for those different types of project, but you're running to the end of the available money, either this project's going to cost too much to be viable, or it's going to result in a product which is too expensive to manufacture and therefore won't be competitive in the marketplace. The same is true with your project. Maybe you just don't have the engineers available, and you can't find the engineers to carry on building, and maybe it's mothballing a project until later, which you will see around your community and your neighborhood. So a house is being built or renovated, and then everything just stops. And clearly somebody has run out of money or priorities have changed, but then 6 months later, builders reappear and finish the job. So sometimes it's a suspension of activity while you wait for justifying more funding or finding the talent or an alternative source of materials. But ultimately, you just keep on asking, is this standing up to the reasons we started doing it in the first place? And is scarcity, or is progress, is innovation, is something making it just not justifiable against the business case anymore? So you can see how important in the other exercises and explanations the business case really is.